look who's here. And some people I don't often see, and some people I see all the time. All right. Um, if this is a little by way of a little orientation, did first of all, did how many of you did actually gather fruits and such together to and wine and all that to participate in this? Because everybody has a way of participating. Oh,
My
wonderful.
wife did.
I was just going to actually give you an opportunity, everybody an opportunity, those who have prepared this, and then if you haven't, you certainly are going to be able to have a very strong supportive role and participate in this as well. So, but I wanted to turn my screen around a little bit here so that we could see where my setup is. There we go. And maybe you'd like to do the same, if you can. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. Great. So, okay, so during this time, I prepared a Haggadah, which some of you may have downloaded. I'm going to be screen sharing this. Hi, Alexandra and Steve, good to see you. I wanted to, if you look at the end of the Haggadah, if you've downloaded, you'll see they have a prominent role as being inspirational and supportive of what I've been doing. And I prepared a type of Haggadah, and I will be explaining as we go along what that's about. So you'll kind of, it'll unfold for you as you go through it. I just wanted to cover a few things here. I'm just trying to get my screen so set so that it's good. Okay, great. And anybody need help with muting and unmuting? Because that's going to be a kind of an important thing. If we have too much people connected with extraneous noise, it could become distracting and have feedback. So people are set on that. Good. All right. So in any event, the process is going to be, we're going to go through the Haggadah, and there'll be times where we'll all join together in blessings, and there'll be times when we'll take turns reading, and there'll be some responsive readings as well. So did anybody have any questions or things they wanted to say right now before we start? No? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, yes, Celia.
The
What's
only
up?
thing, the only kind of fruit that I have, since nectarines are out of season and my local market doesn't have them, are apples and pears, but I don't eat the cores. So would that be okay? I mean, it's the only thing I've got for the thing that.
Well, what would you say in terms of the process, the three kinds of fruits that we have.
Yeah, I know, but I'm asking about that one because it was listed among the ones you can eat all of them.
I'm considering an apple or a pear to be in the third category, that you could eat all of them.
Well, then I'm lacking. I'm going to use it anyway.
Yeah,
I
go
shouldn't
ahead.
have spoken up.
If you decide, if you intend for it to be that way, that will be. So it will be. Oh, we have more people checking in. Let's see. I'm just going to pause just for a moment to just kind of survey who we have here. Wonderful. And even some, well, we have a few people whose names I don't recognize. That's good.
Yeah, if you switch your view, everybody, to gallery view, you should be able to see everybody.
Yeah, you can see everybody. Right now, I have it on gallery view. I'm looking at the vast multitudes here. This is good. Very nice. Glad to see. I was wondering if maybe we'd have 3 or 4 people, and we have a nice multitude. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Does anybody have it? So the process is we're going to go through something that resembles in some way, in some remote way, or not so remote way, the Seder that's going to be coming up in a few months. The idea is it is a Seder, and Seder has wine, and the Seder has special foods. And this Seder will have that, and we'll also be telling a story and delving into the meanings of Tu B'Shvat, and delve into the meanings that some of which are derived from Kabbalistic sources or Jewish mystical sources. So there may be people, and I'm sure there's people in this group that know more about that stuff than I do, but I've done the best I can to bring forth some of these teachings, and we'll see how it works out. Any questions before we begin? I'm going to share the screen here, if I may. All righty. How's that? You see that okay? Looks good? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read something to start, the first paragraph, and then we'll take turns. So I don't think I can really choose people to read as such, but I'd like to have people step up and volunteer to read as we go along, okay? So is that okay with you folks? Any problems with that? No? Okay. So here we go. It is winter, but the days are visibly longer, just visibly, although it's the snow on the ground, I wonder about that. In the land of Israel, it's raining still, but the rain is changing in character, but a bit less than before. And deep in the earth, the roots of the trees are drawing in the water, and the sap is beginning to rise. The almond trees in Israel are already blooming. I believe that's the first trees to bloom in the winter. The 15th of Shvat, which has been today, Tu B'Shvat, marks the full moon of Shvat. If we had the right kind of sky, you could see the full moon out there. I don't know if we can see it tonight or not. Roughly midway between the full moons of Tevet and Adar. So at this time, the turn of the year, midwinter has arrived. This is actually a midwinter festival. Tu B'Shvat is designated in the Talmud as the New Year for trees and begins a 3-month series in years without a leap year of holidays that occur on the mid-month full moons that culminate in Pesach and Passover. Who would like to read somebody step up to read the next paragraph?
Shvat is a time of the early morning, the world, and Tu B'Shvat is the day to welcome and honor the rising sap, the water in the trees that allows life to return. Tu B'Shvat represents the rising life force as the year moves towards spring. This day is a celebration of the inner fire that waits to burst into the air.
And someone else?
From Jill Hammer.
That's from Jill Hammer. Anybody who would like to read the next?
I'll take it. Over the centuries, Jews found ways to recognize and honor this special time in the year, although not commanded in Torah or Mishnah as such, other than designating it as the New Year for trees, a practice developed during the 1500s among a circle of mystics in the town of Tzfat in Palestine, Israel, to celebrate and taste, accompanied by proper blessings, the fruits of the land of Israel, including figs, dates, grapes, olives, pomegranates, along with almonds, pistachios, and other fruits and nuts. The midwinter fruit feast, accompanied by white and red wine and the study of sacred texts, spiritual wine, developed into a Seder-like celebration. The physical elements of the...
Yeah, go ahead, Howie. Go ahead.
Okay. The physical elements of the Seder, as with the Seder of Pesach, were linked symbolically to the physical elements and concepts of 4 worlds and 10 sefirot, or divine emanations, called the Eitz Chaim, the tree of life. This is all part of the mystical system of Kabbalah that had been handed down to and refined by the Jewish mystics of Tzfat and other communities. The Seder tonight will draw upon these practices and ideas as a way of honoring this special time and seeking to make the underlying teachings accessible.
Okay, so I'm going to share one text here. Yes. All right, sorry. There we go. Can you read that, or is it hidden by something?
It's fine.
You can see it? All right, good. So I will read this one. To the mystics, the month of Shvat is referred to as the beginning of redemption and is a time to focus on our future redemption on Purim and Pesach and the invisible divine forces working behind the scenes to bring us there. This perspective is something the mystics learned from the trees, which produce fruits on the outside, but have sap rising behind the bark. When the mystics looked at the trees of the season, they didn't focus exclusively on the fruit of the surface, but on the sap waiting to be revealed. This is a message especially appropriate for this year, according to Rabbi Ingber, from whom I've lifted this with his permission. The invisible stirrings working in secret that all point us to review what is being released to allow for growth and to recognize what sap is now rising within us, individually, communally, and globally, to prepare us for the inevitable redemption that is on the horizon. So, as taught in Kabbalah, the universe God has created and continues to create may be experienced through a structure of the four worlds, which exist in a metaphysical sense. These are the worlds of Asiya, or action, Yetzirah, or formation, Bria, creation, and Atzilut, or emanation. And they can also be considered the worlds of doing, emotion, thought, and intimacy with God. The Seder will be structured based on this system relating to the types of wine and fruit that we're going to consume, as well as the order that we follow. So let's begin. And I would invite you to unmute at this point so we can all, it'll be a cacophony, but it's okay. We'll be all together. To unmute, if you want to just briefly unmute, if anybody not familiar with it, you can hold down your space bar and just do that and let go of the space bar when you don't want to mute anymore, or you can use the controls on your screen, whichever you like. Any event, we express our gratitude at having reached this special occasion, recognizing the new experiences with Shehechianu. If we can unmute and together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'achianu v'kiyamanu
Amen.
I like that.
And if we have we're going to go through some portions of Torah or in related texts, and so we're going to have the bracha for that as well. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, kishanu b'mitzvotav
Asok
divrei
divrei
Torah.
Torah.
Amen. So who would like to step in and
I'll
read
read.
the Mishnah?
I'll read the Mishnah.
Go right ahead, Charlotte.
Mishnah Rosh Hashanah 2a 1-4. These are the 4 new years. The first of Nisan is the new year for kings and for festivals. The first of Elul is the new year for the tithe of beasts. Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon say the first of Tishrei. The first of Tishrei is the new year for years, for Shemitah and Jubilee years, for planting and for tithe of vegetables. The first of Shabbat is the new year for trees, according to the words of Bet Shammai. Bel Hillel says on the 15th of that month.
Yes, so that's good. As usual, Shammai and Hillel are disagreeing. Are in disagreement about it, but Hillel wins out. Rabbi, just curious about what you might, if you might say something about that, as what you're aware of.
Well, the Talmud spends a good portion of Masechet Rosh Hashanah, the tractate of Rosh Hashanah, discussing what exactly is involved in this particular disagreement between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai. And I think what it sort of comes down to is this question of how ripe a fruit has to be for it to be considered mostly ripe. And exactly what Bob said at the beginning about being halfway between, the months, like where is in fact the season shifting from midwinter onward. So if you count from the winter solstice to the spring equinox, there is some disagreement about whether the first of the month of Shvat is closer to halfway or whether the 15th of the month of Shvat is closer to halfway. And in fact, Shammai is right. That is to say, if you actually count it out, the first of Shvat is closer. But we still go with the 15th of Shvat, both because there's a tradition of following Hillel in most cases, but also because Hillel's point is that you actually have to get past that midpoint, and that's the ripening of the fruit is more clear. Yeah, so
That's wonderful. Thanks so much for helping clarify that. You also think that it's in some ways it fits the pattern of the full moon festivals. Which makes some sense to me, but that doesn't mean that's the reason for it. Be nice if we had the ability to see the full moon tonight, but maybe you can go out later if the sky clears. It's going to be extremely cold, which may mean that we're not going to have much cloud cover. So we'll see. The next section here I've given in Hebrew and English, and that's from Leviticus, from Vayikra.
I can read it.
If you'd like to read it, you go ahead, please.
Okay. In ויקרא פרק י"ט פסוקים כ"ג עד כ"ה, וכי תבואו אל הארץ ונטעתם כל עץ מאכל וערלתם עורלתו את פריו 3 שנים, יהיה לכם ערלים לא יאכל. ובשנה הרביעית יהיה כל פריו קודש הילולים להשם, ובשנה החמישית תאכלו את פריו להוסיף לכם תבואתו, אני השם אלוקיכם. In Leviticus chapter 19 verses 23 to 25, when you enter the land and plant any tree for food, you shall regard its fruit as forbidden. 3 years it shall be forbidden for you, not to be eaten. In the 4th year, all its fruit shall be set aside for jubilation before the Lord, and only in the 5th year may you use its fruit, that its yield to you may be increased. I, the Lord, am your God.
Thanks very much, Pur. As you can see, so in practical terms, this is sort of like the fiscal year, the new year for trees, and it had economic and definite direct social consequences to have this time. Who would like to read the next? And feel free to just read the English if you wish. That's fine. Or if you're so talented, you can read the Hebrew as well. Somebody like to step in, or should I?
I'll read. Therefore, keep the commandments of the Lord your God. Walk in his ways and revere him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with streams and springs and fountains issuing from plain and hill, a land of wheat and barley, of vines, figs, and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey.
Very good. And note that just a very small detail. When they talk about honey in this context, it's actually, I believe, means date honey.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
That's what it means. Not bee honey, but date honey.
Right.
So that dates would be one of the fruits. I put following is a section from Psalm 104, which are familiar to most people from Rosh Chodesh, but it's also very much associated with Tu B'Shvat. And what I propose for us to do would be to read the English responsively. So I'll start, and then everybody can unmute to do the other part, the alternate parts. You water the mountains from your lofts. The earth is sated from the fruit of your work.
You make the
You make
grass
the
grow
grass
for the
grow
cattle, and herbage for man's labor, that he may get food out of the earth.
Wine that cheers the hearts of men, the oil that makes the face shine, bread that sustains man's stomach.
The trees of the Lord drink their fill,
the cedars of Lebanon,
blossom
the
and
his
wait.
planting,
planting,
where birds make their nests, and the stork has her home in the trees.
Right. And who would like to read the next paragraph?
I'll read that.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, go ahead.
No, don't fight over it. That's fine. Go for it.
Tu B'Shavat is an opportunity to savor and appreciate the bounty of this world and to give thanks for all the ways that trees provide us with food, shelter, beauty, and air. The Tu B'Shavat Seder is a celebration of our relationship with nature and with fruit trees in particular, and a time for reflection. As we celebrate together, we remember that we are partners in shaping, cultivating, and healing the natural world.
Beautiful. Thank you. And the next one's for someone?
I'll read. The fruit is the product of the previous generation, containing the seed for the next generation. It is a symbol of the awesome moment in which the flow of life is renewed. There is a basic principle in Judaism that humans are to be partners in creation, and our proper actions, such as mitzvot, are essential to the workings of that which is created. Underlying the practices of Tu B'Shvat is the idea that if humans consume the fruit in a holy way, with the proper intentions, kavanah, and blessings, in partnership with God, the flow of creation is maintained and strengthened.
Beautiful. And this is adapted from Arthur Wascow's book, Seasons of Our Joy, which if you haven't had any exposure to that, it's a really great book. Covers all the holidays and gets into some nice details in a very accessible way. I'll continue. A person should intend on Tu B'Shvat, and this is a quote from a 19th century rabbi, a person should intend on Tu B'Shvat when reciting a blessing to channel divine life energy to all creations and creatures, inanimate, plant, animal, and human. He should believe with perfect faith that God, blessed be He, gives life to them all, and that there is a spark of divine life energy in everything, which gives its existence, enlivens it, and causes it to grow. And I think that's something to keep in mind as you say the brachot for each of the sections. And we're going to go into the process here. Does anybody have any questions or things they'd like to add to what we've just covered? And if not, that's fine, but we'll give you an opportunity. No? Okay, so let's begin. Those who have wine or grape juice, who pour a glass of or a cup of white wine or white grape juice. All right. And then somebody I would like to volunteer to read that paragraph, just
I will.
that statement. Who's going to do that?
Go ahead.
That one.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
We live in the world of Asaya.
Asiya.
This is a world of tangible physicality.
Words here, yep.
Each of the four worlds is associated with a season in an element. This world is associated with the winter and the earth. In winter, for our region, the ground is frozen, but we know it contains the life of the spirit below. The white wine or juice we drink symbolizes winter's pale light and white snow.
So if you already have some wine there or some grape juice, get it, good. And if you don't have it yet, we'll give you a chance to pour some. And for those that don't have it, just be willing to back us all up by saying Amen at the end of the bracha. Okay, so you can unmute for the bracha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen.
Pri hagafen.
Hagafen.
You don't have to drink it all down.
Are we having another cup?
Amen.
Okay, so who would like to read the next little section after that? In winter?
In winter here, we lay ourselves in clothing, blanketing ourselves from the cold, just as the earth is insulated by snow. The fruit we eat for the world of Asiya likewise has a protective outside and soft interior. Removing the hard shells or skins of pomegranates, walnuts, almonds, coconuts, pecans, walnuts, hazelnuts, citrus fruits, etc., exposes a vulnerable inside.
Sure, why don't you go ahead and continue, Gary?
The shell which conceals these fruits also protects. We know what that feels like. In the world of school, work, and everyday activity, our spiritual selves require protection and nurturing. Sometimes we wrap ourselves in a tough outer shell to protect our feelings and our hearts. As we eat these fruits representing Asiya, we may find healing in our physical lives, in our relationships with our bodies, in our strength, in all matters physical and practical in our environment.
Okay, with these intentions in mind, we're going to recite the blessing for the fruit, and I'm going to hold up mine here. You may have a separate thing. I have a mandarin orange.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
These are the fruits that have the tough outer shell. I have a kiwi fruits, and I put this in because even though it's soft, you don't typically eat the skin. And then there's some nuts, pistachios.
Coconut.
Almonds. You have coconut. Okay. All right.
It's got a hard shell.
There we go. So we'll give it a chance. So just ask that people drop into silence for just a moment, a minute or so, just a minute, and contemplate what came before in terms of what Gary read before saying the bracha. And we'll unmute and we can say the bracha. Or if you don't have fruit, you can say amen to the bracha. Okay. Baruch
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri ha'etz.
I'll give you a chance to peel and eat. Or crack nuts, crack the shell of the nut. Notice the effort you have to put into getting to the fruit. You just fall right into your mouth there. You have to do something. You have to process it. Get that pistachio. And the essential tool in the kitchen is a pliers here for cracking nuts.
Finally.
Would anybody like to reflect on or say something about what they appreciate about the fruit that they're just eating now, or concerning these principles we talked about relative to Asiya? Or not?
It's worth the effort.
It's worth the effort, Mishka says. And if you don't have anything to say there, that's fine too. handy to have a little bowl to put things in. All right. So that's the world of the fruit related to the world of cause and effect, the world of phenomena, of manifestation, of what we might call the natural laws of the natural processes of things. Okay. Can we move on here? Okay. So if you could pour the second cup, which basically it means that you're going to have the white wine with a splash of red wine or grape juice. So it gets a nice pink color to it. Of course, those purists about not mixing the wines might not like this, but that's the way we do it. Okay, so now we have a nice rosy pink.
That's why you do it with grape juice, then less of a, you know,
Yeah, less of an offense to the
less sacrilegious.
sacrilegious, right? Okay, so we did the second cup. So somebody would like to read that paragraph concerning the world of Yetzirah, if it seems to draw you to it.
I'll
Jump
do
right
that.
in. Thank you.
We live in the world of Yetzirah, change, emotion, transformation. In this world, we turn clay into bricks, iron into plows, words into poetry. In this sphere, we celebrate creative power, both ours and God's. The world of Yetzirah is the world of emotions and heart. In this realm, we celebrate change and creativity, flux and flow. This world is associated with the season of spring and the element of water. To symbolize this world, we drink white wine or juice with a dash of red. This gradual deepening of color parallels the reawakening of colors in nature as the sun brings the earth back to life. In spring, the sun's rays begin to thaw the frozen earth, and the first flowers appear on the hillsides as we drink the second cup of wine or juice, white with a dash of red. May we, like the flowers, blossom into our full potential.
Thank you, Rabbi, very much. And if now we can unmute, if you will, and raise your glasses.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen.
Amen, amen.
Okay. Mm.
A good combination.
Fabulous.
Okay. And if somebody would like to read the next part about the fruit, that would be good.
I will.
Yetzirah. Okay, great. Thank you.
The world of Yetzirah is connected with springtime. We eat fruits without protective shells. Olive, dates, apricots, peaches, plums, cherries, apples, pears, etc. To symbolize how, in spring, we will forget our protective attire and expose our soft bodies to the sun. Still, these fruits contain pits, reminding us that we may still have hardness around our hearts. Despite the wondrous expressions of our spirit, each of us is still tied to the hard stone of ego. We still feel the need to protect what makes us vulnerable.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Want me to continue?
Go ahead, Alexandra. The next paragraph. That's good.
As we eat the fruit of Yetzirah, may our hearts be open to the feelings and needs of ourselves and others, allowing the warmth of our care to extend to the whole world. May we find healing in the realm of emotions. May we find healing in our hearts.
Amen.
Amen. Let's just drop into a few moments of silence there to contemplate, and then address yourself to the fruits you're about to taste.
That's the prunes.
and they've both been.
No, it's okay.
Between the figs and
Okay.
the olive, the figs and the olive, and the figs and the olive.
Okay.
Or the dates rather, not the fig.
All right. Okay, so you can unmute, and if you have the fruit there, you can join me in the blessing.
Baruch
Baruch
atah
Adonai
Eloheinu melech
haolam
haolam v'rei ha'etz.
ha'etz. Amen. So I'm going to have an olive first, because that's, people don't thought of it. It is a fruit. It has a pit. Good.
I love fruit.
Here's an interesting thing I learned from my Muslim friends, that at the end of the evening, at the end of the day of fasting during Ramadan, the first thing you eat is a date.
A big date.
Sure.
A
course.
big date. Everybody gets presented with a date. So
A date and water
and water.
after all day fast. So you could try that next,
Dates is it's supposed to be very healthy for you.
try that next Yom Kippur instead of the challah and apple juice.
No, in addition.
In addition to,
In addition.
You don't have to wait for Yom Kippur.
You
Our
don't
next
have to wait.
fast is just a
No.
few weeks away.
That's true.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's good. Other than that's good. Anybody else have something to say? Any reflections or?
Thank you.
When I led a Tu Bishvat Seder this morning for the Early Childhood Center at the JCC on Zoom, with each class tuning in as on one device, so it was a little chaotic.
Yeah.
I told them that apricots, which have a pit, have a special Hebrew word, which is mishmish.
Mishmish. I didn't know that.
Huh.
That's
Mish
cute.
mish. Is that what apricot, or is that a sort of a slang term for apricot? Mish
No, that's the word for apricot.
mish. Mish.
Mishmish.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Good.
This is so refreshing.
Oh,
And
good.
that's the idea, right?
That's
Refreshing
fun.
Yes.
Supposed to be physically refreshing as well as spiritually refreshing.
Spiritually, right.
Thank you.
That's right.
Olives, avocados, cherries, they're all good.
Any other comments
Avocado.
or
Hey,
commentaries?
Think about
Anybody?
avocado.
Avocado. Avocado is avocado, I guess, would be in that first category, wouldn't it be? Because you have a shell that you don't eat.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why you can
I
eat it
think-
for both.
I think the pit is
The
more
pit is
more
You think it's more
strong in avocado.
You think it's more of a strong element? But
Yeah. Yeah.
What are your opinions about apples and pears? What do you think? Because some sources I read said that they're in the category we're going to get to next, because you could eat the whole thing and you don't have to peel. Although some people peel apples before eating them, and then some people say no, they should be the second category.
Well, yeah, to me, you don't, I never eat the seeds. They're not supposed to be good for you. And you
Yeah.
simply cannot, I mean, unless you really want to swallow something hard and nasty, you
Yeah.
can't eat the surrounding of the seed. And besides, in what we just read, it listed apples and pears.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's right. I'm not sure.
When you cook apples and pears, many times what happens is that they get so soft and so blended into the sauce, if you may, that if you skip a seed here and there, it's not hard. It'll just pass through you. So
Yeah. Well,
not enough of a bad thing in it.
they're different than apricot pits and cherry pits.
Yes,
Very.
exactly. Very,
Very different.
You could crunch them down with your teeth there, but you can't do that with a cherry pit without breaking your teeth.
apples and pears are supposed to be entirely edible fruit.
Well, that's
So-
that's what your book says, right? I've seen
Right.
that as a source, and I've also seen the others. So I just thought I'd bring that up as a
Yeah.
just for talking about food. Anyhow, why don't we go into the next world? It's the next world. It's actually kind of interesting world, the world of Bria. So why don't who would like to read that? We have the third cup.
I'll
Actually,
read it.
before we read it, hold on. The third cup, which is going to be half red and half white. So why don't you pour that and have it ready? If you're going to participate at that level. There we go. So that's just what mine looks like. Kind of almost, not quite the full red. It's got a little bit of the white in it. Okay. All right, go ahead. Somebody can read, "We live in the world of Berea."
We live in the world of Bria, air, thought, contemplation. We recall the words of Genesis. Adonai formed a human from the dust of the earth and blew into its nostrils the breath of life, and the human became a living being, placed in the Garden of Eden to cultivate and protect it. We recognize the unity of God in the Shema. The world of Bria is the
Ethereal. Yeah.
Thank you. Ethereal realm of thought. It is associated with the season of summer and the element of air. One name for God is the breath of life, Ruach Hai. We breathe out what the trees breathe in. God breathes in us and through us. Bria is the world of the holy breath of creation. In the world of Bria, we drink a 1-to-1 mixture of red and white wine, reminding us that as the land becomes warmer and the colors of the fruits deepen as they ripen, we too become warmer and more open.
Yes.
We bless and drink from the third cup.
Great. So why don't just have a moment of silent contemplation here while just before we gather whatever kavanah that stimulated for you. Let's unmute and say the bracha. Baruch
atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech
Hagafen.
May
Amen.
who would like to continue as we eat about the fruits that we eat? So I just listed a few of these. I'll do it. We eat soft fruits, berries, figs, seedless grapes, raisins, possibly, kumquats, star fruit. Some include apples and pears in this. Marla said, to remind ourselves to relinquish both our shells and the stones we carry inside us. In our deeper relationships, may we be like the fruit of Bria, with no inner shell and no outer facade. As we eat the fruits representing Bria, may we find healing in our intellectual lives, in our minds, in our thoughts, in the heat of passionate argument, and in the light of brilliant insight. I'm sure this group is into brilliant insight. It's very much so. With these intentions in mind, I'm going to show my fruits. I happen to have some blueberries and a strawberry or two and some blackberries. And I actually have some figs, but I forgot to take them and put them in the dish, so I have them elsewhere in the house. Okay, so let's say our bracha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech
Now, technically, some of these don't come from eights. from 18, they come from the earth. So go ahead and say the bracha.
Yeah, berries don't.
Baruch atah Adonai,
Adonai,
Eloheinu melech
Baruch
haolam,
Olam,
borei
Bri
b'ri
ha'adam.
ha'adam.
Adamah. Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, right. Yes.
I'm not sure.
Definitely berries are fully edible, and definitely they you say Borei Pri Adma on them.
Yeah, they grow from the root, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't. Yeah.
they're not
Um,
ambiguous.
Oh, bush.
So I think grapes. Grapes are the right one for this.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Good.
Hmm?
Anybody have grapes? You got them?
I have grapes. That's the
Grapes are
one
good.
in the 7 species, I think.
Mhm.
Mm. But grapes
I like
still are-
blueberries.
Yeah, I do too.
but grapes are off the vine literally,
Yeah.
Yep.
Fruit
as
is
are
a vine.
strawberries. The
Grapes
strawberry
count.
vine
Grapes
is.
count as trees.
Interesting.
Yeah, when you're eating grapes.
Now,
When you're
does
eating
anybody-
wine, then
does
you say
anybody-
Borei Pri Agafen off the.
Does
Okay.
anybody have a tomato? That's a fruit.
Yeah.
And that's
But also
Borei
off
Pri
the vine.
That's of the vine.
That's
just
also
dropped-
Borei Pri Adama. tomatoes.
Priyadama tomato.
I just dropped a grape, so that's definitely on the Adama.
And now, of course, in the first category that we did of a Sia, we could have had melon possibly, and that's actually off of a vine also.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's-
melon is also Adama. Bananas are also Adama.
yeah.
So your bracha for Priha Adama covers all that.
Mhm.
Order
Pumpkin seeds fall into that category.
because we're doing things
Oh, that's
in a
good.
confused order, which looks ahead to Purim, with confusion of order of things. So, yeah, I like to have. I think that it's interesting having a Seder which means order of things. We had to do things in a certain order, but having Purim a month before Pesach, kind of an interesting thing in that you have an opportunity for disorder leading then to the.
Well, that's interesting.
Because that may be stimulated by some of the spirits we consume during that time as well.
I love order.
Well, we can certainly connect the holidays if you buy enough dry fruit products for Tu B'Shvat to have a variety, then what's left can be used in the Mishloach Manot that we give each other without the worry of chametz.
That's right. That's right.
Mm.
That's very good.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Well, cool. All right. So any other comments or reflections or thoughts
I
about
love
things?
this. It's great. Thank you.
All right. So the next and last phase of the Four Worlds journey that we've been taking involves us using some red wine with just a splash of white. So why don't you have your wine available, or grape juice?
More like grape juice.
There you go.
Mm.
So it looks a little deeper in color than the previous one we had. Okay. And yeah. And I'm gonna read this one here. If that's okay. We approach and live in the world of Atzilut, essence, divine emanation. Physics tells us that what seems solid is actually filled with impossibly small spaces. Atzilut affirms this knowing what seems like creation is actually, quote, just, unquote, God. And a phrase that may be familiar to all of us, Malo kol haaretz kavodo, the whole world is filled with his glory. World of Atzilut is the world of essence and spirit. This world is associated with the season of fall and the element of fire.
Wow.
This is the world of that which is intangible. To represent Atzilut, we drink deep red wine or juice with a splash of white. The pure red liquid represents the full bloom of nature before the cold winter. As nature expands its last bit of energy in an explosion of colorful leaves, a full cycle is completed. as we drink the fourth cup with a splash of white, reminding us of our continued connection with the physical. That's the splash of white does. May we become strong like healthy trees with solid roots in the ground, with our arms open to the love that surrounds us. Just as and I'm going to add this to the text, just as the tree of life has its roots in the heavens and reaches down to us from its roots in the heavens. So we say a bracha together. Can unmute. Baruch
Baruch
atah
Adonai
Adonai
Eloheinu
Eloheinu
melech
haolam
haorei
v'hagafen. That's good. And would somebody like to eat? Everybody likes to eat, but would somebody like to say the next, read the next part of the Haggadah there? We eat soft fruits.
In the world of Atzilut,
I'm
we
sorry.
eat no fruit,
Yes.
for this world cannot be represented by any fruit. Instead, we inhale through our noses, recalling the breath of life, the fragrance of spices and essential oils. In this spiritual world, we become aware of God's love, mercy, and wisdom, perceived with our hearts, not our senses. Our hearts are full, and we praise the source that renews all creation. The four worlds, action, emotion, thought, and spirit, are each nestled inside each of the others. We live in all four realms at once. Sometimes we have hard shells like the nuts of Asya. Sometimes we have a rock inside us like the stone fruits of Yetzirah. Sometimes we are soft all the way through like the fruits of Bria. And sometimes we are so connected with the Holy One of Blessing as Yud He Vav He, which we may not limit by pronouncing it, that we melt beyond our bodies altogether, living in Atzilut. May we find blessing in each of these four ways of being, each of these four seasons, each of these four worlds. With these understandings and intentions in mind, we recite the blessing for the fragrant spices, enjoying our, their scents to remind us of the world of Atzilut.
Thank you, Anita. That's very good of you to read that and inspire us. And here I have, in my collection, I have cinnamon stick, and I have some nutmeg powder, and I have sweet basil oil. And I'm going to say the bracha together, we will. Baruch
Adonai
Eloheinu melech
haolam,
haorei
Borei
v'samim.
Besamim.
I have cinnamon stick, bay leaf, and cloves.
And I have
Nice
my
combo.
etrog drying out.
Oh, you do.
Ah,
Mine didn't work out this
Oh.
past year. It got moldy, unfortunately.
No,
I
just
think
it's a good omen that you should have a good etrog for next year.
Thank you.
I've got,
Always one.
I've got a star anise, which are probably the prettiest spice around.
ooh,
Star
yeah.
anise.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
very
Extremely
nice.
fragrant, especially if you like black licorice.
I love black licorice.
Hi,
That's
Susan.
right.
Or if you hate black licorice.
I hate any kind of licorice.
People either love it or hate it. It's nothing in between. It's
That's
vice versa.
true.
Just like Marmite.
Marmite.
Oh,
Hey, there
But
we
you
go.
gotta love cinnamon.
Now that's an acquired
Oh, I
taste.
love cinnamon.
You gotta love cinnamon.
Marmite. Ooh.
Oh,
I used to use cinnamon.
I
Oh.
have it every week,
Well, that's because you've got that British part of you.
There we go.
I guess. I'll
Okay.
blame my mom for it.
I don't blame you for blaming her.
So we've had a
Guatemala.
we've had a journey, a little journey aided by the effort of many through the four worlds of consciousness, of awareness, of experience. And now it's time for us to bless. Now, I would like to propose a little, this is the blessing, which since we did not have any bread at this little meal we've had of fruits, we're not doing a Birkat Hamazon, but we're going to do this. For those who are comfortable and wish to do the Hebrew, there it is. It's fine. And there's a somewhat creative translation of it below, which I would encourage people who want to do that to read it at the same time as the Hebrew. So it will be a cacophony, but it'll be a blending. One of my teachers, Reb Zalman Schachter, taught that in many ways Hebrew is kind of a what you might call a right brain kind of language, and the English is more of a left brain kind of language. And I don't know if that covers it or not, but it's kind of interesting to put the two parts of the brain together as a group. So, okay, so for this, we should unmute. It'll be a cacophony, but it'll be good stuff all mixed together. Okay, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So 1, 2.
Come on, boys.
We praise
You, Adonai, our God,
God,
ruler of time and space,
for the vine
vine
and its
for
fruit,
the
the tree and its fruit.
We
Thank you for
the
earth's
bounty
Bounty
and for
the
the
pleasing,
good and
good and
spacious
spacious
land
land
which you
which you
gave
gave
to
to
our
our ancestors,
that
that
they
they might
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 eat of it
produce
and be satisfied
and be
with
satisfied
good
with
yield.
yield.
Have
Mercy, Adonai, our God,
God,
for Jerusalem, your
from your
city,
for
city,
Zion,
for
Zion,
the
the
Zion,
home of your
the
glory.
glory.
Fully restore
restore
Jerusalem soon and in our days,
in our days,
bringing us
bringing us
rejoicing in its
rejoicing in
restoration. Keep the lands
the
full of
land
its
with
abundance.
abundance,
We praise you in holiness. Blessed be
Blessed be
you
you who created
Lord,
so many
created so many
different
different living
creates
things,
eating each
all
other,
eating each
to
other,
make one
to make
life,
one life
one
worthy,
world,
of them
one soul.
soul.
blessed
Blessed
is
be
Blessed
the
be the
life of
life
all
of
the
all
worlds.
the world.
Baruch Chai Ha'olamim.
All
All right.
Beautiful.
And now, thank you very much for participating in that little liturgical experiment. This next one is actually, it's called Hallel for Tu Bishvat,
Wow.
which was actually written by a now deceased, blessed memory, Debbie Perlman, as a poem. And she composed psalms that were actually used in services in her synagogue in Chicago, I believe in Chicago or Illinois, somewhere in Illinois area. So I propose to do this. You'll notice there's regular type and there's italics, and so we'll do it as a responsive reading. I'll read the regular type, and everybody together can do the italics. Okay, so I'll start. Upon the winter's barren branches, you paint the leaves of imagination to welcome Tu Bishvat, to sing the coming of new trees. All
Sing praises to the Eternal.
Renews life and its cycles of praises.
Stretching forth our minds, we see your winter fields and furrows. We watch as young saplings take their places, row on row to guard the soil.
Sing praise to the Eternal, rich as dust to nourish growth, sing praises.
You defend the tillers as they work, digging the desert rich and lush and green. You call those who watch to offer support and share in the promise of the land. And let's lead this all together. Sing praises
to the Eternal,
who guards the toilers and the givers.
Praises.
Sing praises to the Eternal, branch and shelter over us. Sing praises.
Okay, great. And now a concluding prayer. And this is actually a translation by Rabbi Miles Krasen from a text that was originally published in the 1700s, derived from an actual Seder that was put together. That is more of a Seder that would basically, like some Pesach Seders, go into the early morning hours. But in this case, this is a concluding blessing. So I propose that we I will read this, and you may join in as you wish. O God, who makes forms, creates and
And
emanates
emanates
the
the
highest
highest
world,
Highest world.
who made the
Made the
trees and
trees and
grasses
grasses
grow from the
grow
ground in the
ground
shape
in
and
shape and
pattern of
pattern
the
of the
highest
highest
world.
world.
And this
And
full
this
moon is the
moon is the
beginning
beginning
of
of
your
your
work
work
to
to
renew
renew
and
and
ripen the
ripen the
fruit
fruit
trees,
trees
to
to
bring
bring
forth
forth
the
the
fruit of
of
the
the
tree of
tree of
life
life
in the
in
midst
the
of the
midst of the
garden.
garden.
May it be
May
your
it be
will
your
that our
will that our
eating
eating
and
and
blessing and
blessing,
meditating on these
meditating on
meditating
these
fruits
on these
fruits
fruits
will
will
strengthen the
strengthen the
flow of
flow of
love
love
and
and blessing
blessing
over
over
the
the
blessing over the
trees
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 to make
to
to
them
make them
grow and bloom
grow and
for
bloom
good
for
life,
good
for
life, for
blessing and
blessing,
for
brings and for
peace.
peace.
may all
May
May all
all
creation
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 return
return to its
return to
to its
its
original
original
strength.
strength,
strength.
May
and
we
may
And
see
we
may
the
we
see the
see
rainbow in
the
rainbow
joyful
rainbow
rejoicing in its
colors.
rejoicing in its
colors.
colors.
May
May
all the
all
And
the
may
sparks
all
of
sparks of
divine
divine
energy
energy
that are
are
scattered
scattered
that are
by
by
our
our
scattered
hands and
hands
by
and
the
by the
hands of
hands
our
of our
ancestors,
ancestors,
and
and
by the
by the
sin of the
sin of the
first
first
human
human
against the
against
fruit
the
of the
fruit of the
tree,
fruit
trees,
of the
be
tree
be
returned,
return
returned and
included
included in the
included
in the
in the
majestic
majestic
light
might
of
of
the
the
tree
tree
of
of
life,
life that creates
creates
Hadar.
Hadar. May the new year for
Your
trees
trees
begin a year
begin
of
a
growth
year
and
of growth,
renewal for all the trees
all the
and for
trees and
us
for
next year
next
in
year in
person.
person.
You said it. Woo!
Okay, so
Next
this
year.
last part is a little addendum for people who wanted to download it and read more about the four worlds. So that's not part of the Seder. So I actually propose one more screen share. And this is something that's very familiar, and it's not necessarily from the same line as we've been reading, but it does connect to it, I believe. And that is this.
Oh, it's Chaim.
That's
Yeah.
right. So why don't we, it's a familiar tune, and why don't we do this together as the final thing?
You singing?
And it'll be a cacophony, but what the hell? Eitz Chaim Lamachazikim Ba V'Tohem Keha Mihusha Derakeha Kafe Noam V'Kol Netivoteha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Thank you all for joining in this celebration. And I really mean it, next year in person.
Yasher Koach, Bob, and
Yashikoa.
everyone else who helped put this together. Thank you all.
And
Yes.
and if you'd like to, anybody like to say anything, make comments, whatever you'd like to do is fine. We could schmooze for a few minutes here. It's no problem.
Thank you so much.
So thank you everybody for participating in this.
Thank you for
Thank you
putting this
for
together.
Putting this together.
It's a pleasure.
Beautiful. You.
And thanks, Alexandra, for your example of the one that you put together. It really was inspiring. Appreciate
You're
that.
very welcome. Thanks for the shout out.
It's really very good. It's good to have you all here. Okay. Well,
Are you in New York?
Who are you asking?